Hi everyone, welcome to Online Dating Red Flags, episode number 4. Please excuse the low level sort of humming sound. That is the sound of the air conditioners because it is really, really hot in this house. I have them turned off in the room that I'm filming, but you can still hear the low level hum, and there's really nothing I can do about that because if I turn them off, my roommates won't be too happy about it. So just kind of bear with me on that. It shouldn't be too big of a deal or too intrusive, but I do apologize for it because I try to make the audio as clear as possible, but life happens. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, vague answers about career or location. Now, the career one really needs to be looked at within context. I personally don't really like to get into a lot of what I do for work early on. I just don't want to talk about work. And one of my, I'm self-employed, but one of the jobs that I do is very different and very interesting. And I find that if I'm too specific about that particular job, then I'll get a lot of people that are interested in me just because of what I do for work. Either they feel that I can help them in their career because they want to break into the field that I'm doing, or they just think that it's a really cool thing to talk about. Now, I love most of the things that I do for work, and I have no problem talking about my work with people that I already know, but people that I'm just getting to know, I don't really like to talk about work a lot, especially because in one of the particular fields that I work in, there are a lot of people that want to break into that, and I kind of feel like in some ways, sometimes they are trying to use me to get that connection. And so I'm a little bit hesitant about getting into specifics about what I do for work. However, I do give a general idea. I am not, and I never lie about it. Sometimes I might just outright say, you know what, I'm in a creative field, and I don't really necessarily like to talk about it a lot because it can lead to people just being interested in work. And when I'm not at work, like a lot of times, I don't want to talk about work. I try to separate my social life from my work life, although the two do intertwine. If that happens organically, awesome. But I am a little bit vague to a point about what I do for work. Um, However, you want to be mindful if people just won't even tell you what general industry they're in, or if they act really squirrely around the question, they're probably hiding something, whatever it is that they're hiding. I'm not really sure. But again, like anything, if somebody's hiding something, I don't really care enough to find out why they're hiding something. I'm all set with that. I've dealt with enough of that. And also, being vague about their location, that's kind of a big deal too, because that can be a deal breaker. I know I've stopped communicating with a couple of people because they essentially lied about where they lived. If you can't even tell the general city or town that you live in, there's something not right there. It's one thing to say I'm from such and such area. If you're actually from such and such area, if you're within 10 or 15 minutes of an area and you just say, oh yeah, I'm from that area, that's acceptable. But if you're saying that you're from a certain area and you're a good hour away or more, that's a little strange to me. And there's no reason to be lying about that because you can just say, well, I live in such and such town. If somebody's being really vague about their location, they're probably hiding something like they're married or they're in a relationship or something of that nature. They might even have a criminal history or be on the sex offender list. So if they lie about their town and you search for that particular town or even if that particular county, depending on what kind of database your particular state has, then they might not show up because they don't live in X town, they live in Y town. So those are, that's an extreme case, but that has happened. So just be very careful about that. Red flag number 2 in this episode is the shirtless pic or the torso pic in their profile. The only exception to this is if they happen to have like a picture where they're at the beach or something like that, where they happen to, not have their shirt on and they're in a group photo or whatever, or just like an action shot or something. That's okay. You know what I'm talking about. It's you cut off the head, you look at the torso, and that's pretty much the only thing that is showing. I may have other pictures up there as well, but the reason that this is such a red flag is because it is huge on the spectrum of narcissism. Not necessarily narcissistic personality disorder, But somebody to display themselves like that definitely has a lot of narcissistic traits, and you want to be very cautious around those people, because especially if you get into the actual spectrum of NPD, those people are extremely dangerous. They're not just, the Ken and Barbies that are just like, oh yeah, I'm so great and beautiful. There's a lot of, psychopathy elements to that disorder as well. So you want to be careful with that. And if somebody is leading with that, then obviously they're probably not looking for a long-term relationship. They're showing, their essentially their assets, because they're looking to attract most likely more in the casual sexual partners. And if they don't have any pictures of their face at all in their profile, just completely avoid them, because they are absolutely hiding something. I've talked about that before, but this is very important. So be careful around, and these types, like the shirtless pic types, they tend to be the worst in terms of, if you do reply and you say, no, thank you, I'm not interested, they tend to be really, have crazy strong reactions to that. They can become threatening. And I'm not saying that everybody that has these types of pictures is this way, but I'm saying that a majority of the people that have these types of pictures are this way in some form. And these are just people that you want to avoid if you're looking for a serious, committed relationship. Number 3 is inconsistent pattern of communication, or a very limited window in which you can communicate. This encompasses a lot of things. This is a lot of, oh, well, I'll call you, don't call me because I'm so busy all the time. Or if they're only available to talk during the weekdays, again, in context. Maybe they're a shift worker. Maybe they work third shift and the only time that they can talk is during the day. Or maybe they work, different hours at different times, and if that's the reason why they can only talk to you during the day, during the week, then that might be acceptable. However, it's also very possible that the reason that they can only talk during the day, during the week, is because their spouse is at work. So you want to be mindful of these things, and the communication, like, do they ever answer the phone when you call? Or do they ever insist that they have to call you instead of you calling them? Those types of things. Or when they do answer the phone, like how do they act differently at all? Do they act maybe a little bit cold, like saying, oh yeah, hey, I gotta go? Or are they, what is their communication consistency? Is it there? Like, are they openly communicative with you? Are they, can you both parties be able to reach out, within reason? Obviously not, like, I'm not talking about calling somebody at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning all the time, but is there a consistent pattern of communication that that works for you and that makes sense? If somebody's working all day during the day, say Monday through Friday, say the typical office hours, like 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever, and that's the only time that they can talk to you, that's weird. That's a big red flag, because they're probably trying to avoid, going home to a spouse or a live-in partner of some sort that, is gone during the day. So just be careful of that and be very mindful of, patterns of communication. And what I mean by patterns of communication, I can get into this a little bit more deeply, is, if they're sweet, are they consistently sweet, or are they hot and cold? Do you get a lot of, either a rush of attention and a lot of attention for, a few days, a couple of weeks, and then things kind of die down, or it's almost like they ghost you, like you don't have any communication with them? Be careful with that, because that can be indicator of manipulation and even abuse. So just be very mindful of, them being consistent. People tend to be consistent. How you do one thing is how you do most things. So if you're seeing a lot of roller coaster type communication, like it's all or nothing, those types of things are absolutely things that you need to be looking out for, because they could lead to some really serious issues down the road. Well, thank you so much for watching this, and if you enjoyed this content, please give it a like, share it, hit the subscribe button. That's really about it. I'll see you in the next episode.